Hello and welcome to a very special show. Today we have a town hall with Gen Z. I mean, this is a generation that has made sure that nobody can ignore them. Ours was a generation where it was taught that children or youth should be seen but not heard. But the Gen Z, this generation, had made sure that they are seen, they are heard, and that they are listened to. They made sure that a language of protest has now become the language of governance. What do they want from us? What do they want from their leaders? What do they want from the politicians? What do they want from society? And what are they doing for society? What is the road ahead? What are their visions? What is the roadmap ahead? That is something I'm going to be talking. I have with me a group of Gen Z, young students who age group between, I think, 18 to 20. Some of them are in the final year of school, some of their first year of college. They've all seen the protest. Some of them may have attended the protest, but they're all very fervent. They all have a view. And today, well, every day, they're all going to be heard, because if I don't hear them, they're definitely going to be on Instagram. So through you guys, I hope I will be heard. Now this come to that. So I'm very happy to welcome you all to the NewsX studio for this very special show. And I'm going to first begin with asking, I mean, this is really in the aftermath of the protests that we saw at Jantar Mantar. And we saw, how the government, you made sure that the government listened to you. So what is first your reaction to the road ahead? Are you satisfied with what has happened? Shivam, I'm going to begin with you first. What does the youth really want from now on?
Certainly, and thank you so much, Ms. Sehgal, for having us. I'm Shivom, and I'm a student of history. And I'll just say that definitely we are satisfied with the government offering the resignation of Mr. Pradhan, because that is what the ideal demand was. It was that accountability must be had. That was the beginning of the movement. And after accountability has been sought and the government has followed through with their promise, the next step would be to see how reform can take place and how the education system can actually go in a positive direction. That's what the youth is really looking forward to. And the distinct thing about this particular generation is that we don't get swayed that easily by caste or by religion or by the usual talking points of politicians. We want actual change. And whether that happens through the BJP or the Congress or the Aam Aadmi Party or even the Jan Swaraj, as we saw Mr. Kishore sweeping the polls just a couple of days back, we don't care what the instrument is. The outcome must be positive.
Wow, that is indeed something that is very heartening. In fact, how many of you are first-time voters? How many of you have voted so far? None. So you're all going to be first-time voters also. So I'm not going to ask you who you're going to vote for, but I can ask you what are you going to vote for. Are you going to be voting for a leader according to his age? Do you want a younger leader, or as he said, he's not looking at the person but the instrument of change? What are the 3 points that you really want the politicians to raise in their speeches to make you want to vote for them? Anybody for that?
My name is Athar. I'm a class 11 student. Well, the 3 main things I look for in a politician is that I will not vote for somebody who tries to separate the people via religion or caste or any other such creed or immoral value. Personally, I'm quite against freebie culture, and I would love to give my vote to a politician who will give us jobs, who will actually listen to the youth, and who actually will raise our voice in the parliament instead of going on walks and public campaigns.
Wow. So that in one sentence, he's demolished at least 2 leaders of the 2 national parties. Well said. Anybody else wants to come in on that? Who you're not going to vote for? I like that point.
I am Farhan. I'm in class 10. And just expanding on what Athar said, when we're looking at statistics and numbers, to be real with the numbers, right now, I think the official youth unemployment rate is at 3.2%. But other documented sources show that the youth unemployment rate is at 42.3%. That's a huge gap between the two numbers. And leaders who not just promise accountability, but enforce the policies that result in accountability, in fair numbers, in real statistics, I think that's a person I'd vote for, who's doing the boring work, but getting us to a better place and getting us to a better nation and helping the youth entirely.
I'm Vivan. I'm a grade 12 student. And building upon what Shivom and Farhan and Athar said, I think the main focus in who I would be voting for is accountability. This entire protest was a protest of accountability. And looking at the past records, what they promise, and rather than just focusing on, as we said, freebie culture, on what their solutions are, on what they're actually proposing, on what their manifesto focuses on. I think that's the key aspect that the youth focuses on, because we don't focus on their speeches where they might over exaggerate things, or they might try and divide us. The main thing that we focus on are the actual solutions, and would they be accountable to the people.
How many of you here have been to Ayodhya? You have. You have. How many of you will vote for a party because of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple?
I will vote for them, but that would definitely be criteria.
So it did make a difference, the promise.
It won't make a difference per se in my voting pattern, but as someone who cares deeply about whether the temple existed or not, and whether a certain part of the community which felt as though
It had been ignored.
it had been ignored is now being looked at. What would influence my voting pattern actually is the Chanda Chori incident.
Yes.
I personally was my जैसे कहते हैं कि धर्म भ्रष्ट हो गया उसको देख के, अगर राम मंदिर के नाम के ऊपर आप वोट
राम
कलेक्ट
के
कर
नाम पे
सकते हो
चोरी कर रहे हो।
और आप वोट कलेक्ट कर सकते हो, तो then it's your responsibility also to ensure that the temple goes on in a sattvic way. I don't think that was something which took place, and we'll see in the 27 results, but there are many like me as well. Perhaps the building of the temple didn't influence my vote, but the theft and the way they've dealt with the theft certainly has changed my perspective.
So in the, you all have seen, I think in the last, since you're all 18 or something, I think the only government you've really seen since you became aware politically is the Narendra Modi government for the last 12 years. But from the past, what you've read, what you've seen, where would you say, leave aside, don't comment on this government, but where would you say was the golden era of Indian, you wish you had been alive with that person as a prime minister, or you thought that person was a good prime minister? Your name?
I think under the Congress government, PV Narasimha Rao was someone who I really admire, and I would love to be alive during his time.
I'm
And
with you on that.
along with that, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he was in power, he's one of my favorite politicians, and he's someone I think the youth also really admires. And the morals that he put across and the democracy that he was very faithfully going on with, I think that is something that the current government should really try and look back at, in my opinion.
And your name?
My name is Ruhan Rajgagar, and I'm a class 11 student from Sanskriti School.
Great. Okay. So, in terms of, for instance, do any of you remember, have you all read about Jawaharlal Nehru? When there is so much comparison with Nehru, does that work for you, or do you say, that was the past, or do you actually get motivated or disappointed?
My name is Priyanshu Sen, and I'm entering my third year of university. I'm a political science student. And I think constant comparison with Nehru is sad, because however he may be, he was the prime minister of a country which started from zero. In fact, in negative, when this country got freedom. So constant comparison, it's very easy to deflect, It's very easy it's like saying, I'm giving you an example because we're all children sitting here. If I don't do good in my maths paper, I can't tell my parents, oh, I'm failing because my friend is failing as well. They're going to be on that slap. They'll be like, oh, please go study. That logic doesn't work. So constant, constant comparison. I believe, I won't take the name of any leader, but Nehru's name was probably said more than, after, I think, if not more than, about 60 times in the parliament, which is, it's been, I think, more than 50 years since Pandit Nehru has passed away, more than 50 years. And if if our answer to every question in our country is still Jawaharlal Nehru, then that's really sad. That's really, really sad. And I'm a big fan of Vajpayee ji, but still when I see that this constant comparison is happening with somebody who was in this country more than 50 years ago, who took care of this country with no resources, and you today have so many resources, yet you're failing. It speaks a lot about the kind of work you're doing. A lot.
I think there's a lot to be admired about Pandit Nehru, and there's a lot to be admired about the current Prime Minister as well. There are certain things you can't dispute, such as for example, the number of washrooms which have been made, the kind of connectivity.
Focus on little details, yeah.
So absolutely, on both ends, there's great development which has happened, but constantly comparing yourself to anyone, be it Jawaharlal Nehru, be it Mahatma Gandhi, I don't think that's the right way to go. You should try to carve your own image, and I don't think any particular political party is responsible. It's a sort of PR campaign to say that, we've one day above the, elected And there are lots of ifs and buts.
There are lots of reasons why. Because he was not elected. It was the longest elected prime minister because Nehru's first term, he was not, did not have a general election.
I'm sure I speak for everyone here when we do admire the positive development which is happening under Mr. Modi's rule as well. For example, the connectivity and the washrooms. I don't think anyone can dispute that.
And even the roads. I mean, we of course play up the potholes,
Well,
but I've seen the connectivity. I just came from the Dehradun Expressway. It was
You came-
excellent.
I just came to this office and I had quite a spatial experience. A lot of space technology being used. Anyway.
Fair enough. Anybody else wants to come in, or should we? The backbenchers really sticking true to his word as being backbenchers. So I'll move on from politics. One last question: when politicians talk in your language, we saw in Parliament. Oh, okay. How do you feel? How do you react? Do you feel good that you've got them to talk your language, or do you? How do you feel first? Your
Okay,
name?
I'm John, and I'm a student in year 10. And I think that when governments or politicians talk in Gen Z lingo to say, I think they're really narrowing down the definition of relatability. Because when the youth demands relatability, I think what they're talking about is that the government listens to the problems that the youth is facing. For example, the record unemployment rates, and not necessarily relatability in essence that they talk in the same kind of language. Because maybe using slang words would work for 4 to 5 seconds, but I don't think that's a real reflection of what the politicians actually mean by relatability and whether they're actually showing the relatability that the youth asks for.
So don't use keywords, but actually the content matters, as he said initially. Yeah.
Personally, I feel like these words are being used more for clicks rather than actually
So good.
demonstrating some sort of relatability with the youth. I mean, if it's good that our politicians are trying to relate to the youth, and we all really appreciate that. But a parliament is a place of formal discourse. Well, it is supposed to be a place of formal discourse.
Yes.
And when words like clocked it or delulu are used in the parliament, it quite undermines the essence of our Samvidhan, of what this country, Bharat, is supposed to be in its democratic essence, in my opinion.
But now a lot of politicians are going on Instagram. And I think apart from the Prime Minister, everybody's been told like that's to relate with you guys. So you wanted to comment on that, Aditi? No.
Oh, I'm Aditi Nagpal. I'm a high school student right now. I think using Gen Z lingo is definitely a way to relate to the younger generation, the future of our generation. But we're mainly looking for accountability. We're looking for change. We're looking for action. And just a few seconds of Gen Z lingo to relate to our younger generation isn't going to make that change. We definitely appreciate the attempt, but...
So the attempt is appreciated at least.
I'm Anhad. I'm a university student studying political science. And just adding on to Aditi's point, as I think lingo is appreciated on what many would consider to be the most powerful tool present today, which is social media. The current problem, as my colleague was saying here today, is accountability. And I mean, we live in the most polluted capital in the world. And I think that, I mean, when you mentioned protests earlier, that as a resident of someone living in the city, that it shouldn't just stop at, education reform. It should go on to all spectrums of conversations that are happening online or presently right now. I think that pollution is a very big problem in the city. I think that not just education, but I mean, as someone had mentioned before, unemployment. So I think there needs to be various topics that I touched on, and this is just the beginning.
Right, just building on what my colleague said, when we look at politicians who've been using certain language and suddenly after the recent protests, they try and attempt to use language, we can obviously see through it. We can see that it's more to garner eyeballs rather than actually attempt to connect with people. And I think I speak for everyone here. We would much rather see a more heartfelt video where they're talking about accountability and talking about problems rather than using lingo, which a lot of time, if you see, it's used out of context as well. They don't fully understand the context as well, and that might be a generational thing. But they're using lingo out of context as well. And I think I would personally prefer them to talk in whichever language, but talk real points and talk about accountability and various issues going on.
So they're not clocking it. Do you want to say before you go quick break?
I'm Yash. I'm studying political science honors from DU. I'm 20. And I believe instead of using catchy terms and lingos, if they establish proper communication with the youth, which was not established during the protest, I don't think the issue would have gotten that big if the discourse was set up with the students, with the people who were actually giving the exams, rather than using catchy lingos and terms in parliament, it would have been better.
I'm going to take a quick break and come back, and I'm going to just one last question on politicians is, who do you see as the politician of tomorrow from today's, from BJP and the opposition side? So think of that answer while we go in for a quick break. Hello and welcome back to the Town Hall with Gen Z. We're trying to figure out what the young have on their mind. The leaders of tomorrow are actually sitting right here in the studio and they have opinions for today. So, from the current crop of politicians, who would you see, as someone you would like to see as a leader of tomorrow,
So I'm going to name a couple politicians from
Either
the opposition.
BJP
I'm going
and
to do
opposition, yeah.
both
It's not a
aisles so that
partisan thing.
people watching don't think I'm biased. But
This
but
one is going to be a
regardless-
politician of
No,
tomorrow.
no,
Watch
not
it.
at all. I think journalism is better suited. That's why. Otherwise, if I wanted to become a politician, I'll be biased for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I stand corrected. He wants accountability, so he's
Yes.
doing a journalist.
So from the BJP and the NDA, I'm definitely going to say Jay Panda is someone we do look up to. He speaks well in Parliament. I'd say Jayant Singh is there. There's also
Jayant Chaudhary.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
however
Jayant
you,
Singh.
yeah,
Chaudhary
exactly.
Jayant Singh.
Rajiv Pratap Rudy is also someone we look up to because these people are temperate. They like to take things into account before making statements. They don't just go ahead and say anything. I think from the other side, Sachin Pilot is someone we do look up to as a generation. Prashant Kishore is also someone, at least from my end, and Manish Tiwari most importantly. I think the way we judge politicians today, there's been this metric which has come on, how are they using their MP-led funds? That's a very Gen Z thing to do. We're sitting on social media and analyzing how they're using the MP-led funds and seeing what work is actually coming out of it. I'm suggesting a new metric. Perhaps NewsX can take it up. How many days are these people spending in their constituency? I know for a fact that people like Manish Tiwari are spending 5 to 6 days sitting in rural parts of Chandigarh and places like that and actually analyzing those areas and listening to their constituents. There are a lot of MPs from across the aisle who are sitting in Lutyens and not really going back. Maybe weekend MPs is what you guys call them. So the Gen Z is looking at that as well. And I think that's something, feedback for the politicians.
And you're looking at it where you're getting your information from? Social media or is it...
I think personally speaking, answering both your questions, the first question being about the future leaders, and I'm coming from trying to be unbiased here, but recently I have really liked the way Priyanka Gandhi Vadra presents herself. From the Congress party particularly, I was not really that impressed with the way, of course, there was also a lot of, IT propaganda and whatever it was against the current leadership of the Congress party. But Priyanka Gandhi in particular reminded me of, a little bit of a reflection of her grandmother, of what we read, what we studied so many years. And the way she spoke in parliament, it was there are a lot of these reels of older like politicians like Sushma Swaraj and speaking in parliament, Manmohan Singh,
Manmohan
a
Singh.
little bit of that banter. The way Priyanka Gandhi presents herself, I found it was very, very graceful. And I thought Priyanka Gandhi, and like Shivom here said, a big Prashant Kishore fan. So I think hopefully Prashant Kishore as well. We see him doing some work. And where we take our news from, our information from, I think our generation predominantly social media because of independent journalists and this whole concept of like Godi media is there. So everyone's a little hinged when they're like a little, they're just a little cautious about getting the information accurately. But I personally take it from social media. And
I just have to say one thing on what he said. The entire IT cell thing against Rahul Gandhi and whatever, that was what you were referencing, right? I think you can place hope in this guy, for sure. But if you're going to go for a week in the middle of the protests, the student protests were ongoing, for a week he cancelled all programs and went on a foreign trip. And this was an intimation, you'd know that better than anyone, Ms. Sehgal. It went out to all media houses that Rahul Gandhi is on a trip for 1 week. I personally don't understand how you can appeal to the Gen Z when the Gen Z is protesting and you've gone for a foreign vacation for a week.
See, okay, I'm not excusing the week, but there was also a feeling that if Rahul Gandhi comes to the protests, then it becomes, the BJP is looking for some face to the protest they can attack. He becomes the easy target. And then the whole protest becomes a Congress one, which is why they said we went to the PM's house and we didn't come to the party office.
There's no need.
To the Jantar Mantar. There's no need to go off for a week. Okay, that's fair enough.
Right. So I just wanted to add on to what my colleague was saying about news and where we get our news from. I think like you was saying, Godi media is definitely relevant in today's society. And I think we have to be careful about where we're getting our news from. Even social media, I'm a huge supporter of social media. I use it a lot, but it's a very dangerous place. There are a lot of fake news there as well. But I think out of some of the like proper news websites, I use News Laundry as well, trusted sites instead of more biased websites. Yeah.
Yeah, see, what has also happened is, from a news person's point of view, first of all, Godi media as a term, I think, is justified for certain anchors. To tar the whole mainstream media as Godi media, I think on behalf of NewsX also one would like to, say that we can do news without getting into the, the walking the extra mile to please the government as some of the anchors do. And the alternate media actually came up as a reaction to the mainstream media. So they are also, they're also going far this way. So there has to be a middle ground, which we are still, let's see when that happens.
So I actually have some quite strong feelings about social media. You can very easily get stuck in your own echo chamber and get fed fake, maybe AI generated content. However, what I'd like to emphasize here is that when signal jammers are being used in areas such as Jantar Mantar, and maybe fake content is being spread, we can get primary accounts of what's happening in protests such as or maybe the Chalo Sansan march from social media. Because if you saw that there's basically an onslaught of reels on either the CJP Instagram or even Instagrams of random influencers who decided to go to the protest, showing what was actually happening in reality with the police, their uniforms, and the protocols being used against the protesters.
I was also wondering why the farmers' protest didn't garner so much as the youth protest, because of what you just said, the young kids with their camera. So, you may stop, the poor farmers did not really know how to get to social media, but these you all know how to do it. So, any narrative that is being spread, you are there on ground with your cameras and putting up that story. So, that's, I think, what really clicked.
I think a lot of people over here refer to the Godi media, but I'm surprised no one's referring to the false propaganda that was spread during these protests, even from the CJP, in my opinion. The youth of this country is mostly blaming the education minister, a person who directly was not related to the paper leak itself. 47 officials from the NTA were sacked. The NTA chief secretary was removed. In 2024, after the NEET UG paper was leaked, the NTA chief himself resigned. And before Dharmendra Pradhan, there was absolutely no education minister who resigned on moral grounds. So all of a sudden, now there's fake narrative being spread amongst the youth of this country that nahi, police ne to aake yahan pe in logo pe lathi charge kar diya. But no one realizes that under section 163 of BNSS, this protest itself was illegal. ये लोग अगर पार्लियामेंट की स्ट्रीट पे जाके बैरिकेड के ऊपर कूदेंगे, then police उसके बारे में कुछ कर नहीं सकती. I mean, it's already a unlawful protest in the first place. Do you not think the police should at least go tackle it up to some extent, first of all? And second of all, the Gen Z and the youth of this country are trying to blame only the education ministry. What about in the past when so many paper leaks happened, more than 70, but no education minister resigned that time? On moral grounds, I can only name approximately one minister who resigned on moral grounds, who was Lal Bahadur Shastri. As I mean, more, but barely any.
I can name 4 in the last UPA too.
UPA,
On-
yes.
on moral
we had
grounds,
Madhav Rao
no.
Scindia. No,
Shivam, on moral grounds, no education ministers
no
ever resigned
education
before
minister,
Dharmendra
but other
Pradhan.
ministers have.
Education minister, but you said no minister.
No education minister.
Accountability is being lacked under every government, in my opinion. I think that's one thing
a
that.
fair point. It's I would go with you on that. But the only thing is becoming highlighted now is because of people like you who are actually not keeping quiet. Our generation maybe said chalta hai, ye to hota hai. We'll pay the bribe and what the hell. But get your work done. But your generation is there with your cameras and making sure your work gets done without this chalta hai. So I think kudos to you all.
I would like to add something. I remember, I think for most of us, to even convince, there was a protest at home that, we want to go for the protest because
Your parents.
our parents and our grandparents, I myself have been struggling, it's not that bad because they've been consuming what's on the TV. And the question were about the protest being unlawful. I think by definition, the protest is against
It's
everything. Gandhiji's biggest lawbreaker, I think, was Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, war criminal, then Bhagat Singh. So these are all, I think, lawbreakers. And I remember my grandfather's, my grand uncle telling me that, When I gave my sat for my first exam, my paper got leaked, and I said, well, too bad. If I was there in Indira Gandhi's time, I would be in the streets as well. You were not there as a you problem, not an our problem.
That's very Subramanian Swami of you.
Very Subramania Swami of you. Well said.
But I'd say this, bringing back to the farmers' protest point. There were 5 lakh farmers over there. 400 of them died in the cold. These are just approximate figures. Ministers who are sitting today were lathi charged and their heads were bashed open. Rakesh Tikait, so many people. But still, why did the uproar not reach the level it did in the CJP protest? I'm just going to ask you this: for each protester, take the net income of them yearly versus the protesters who were there in the farmers' protest. You will see a huge difference. There must be a 5x or 6x jump at least, based on what I saw there. Most of the people who were there were at least decently educated, English speaking, so on. They were definitely higher up on the social ladder than most of the farmers who were earning on MSP, which is why they were protesting in the first place. So it isn't a protest for the rich, I would say, but in the farmers' protest, it was definitely something which affected the extremely vulnerable in society, and that is why the government could afford to avoid them for 6 months.
I think maybe not protests of the rich or poor, but this was more urban educated kids who are there, who really had access to social media. If the farmers did, that is actually when the alternate
The fact that you have access to a phone, the fact that you can speak English the way they were in the CJP protest and people are understanding. If I try to say the same thing as I'm speaking to you right now, or the Son of Das did in the CJP protest in front of the farmers, they won't understand a word of what they're saying.
But they, they are also very articulate. They just didn't know how to get their message across, which is...
I think it was a huge social and income gap between the farmers' protest and the CJP protest.
agree with you.
Otherwise, they had the numbers.
They had
400
the-
of them died in the cold. Imagine 400 of them. In the CJP protest, is there one casualty? I'm just asking. There shouldn't be a casualty in any
One
protest.
casualty, yeah.
But 400 people are our farmers. At that, we say Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Anyway.
That is very Yogendra Yadav of you.
So, I'd like to say that I believe that the CJP was more of got traction because it was quite more of a national protest, because we saw people coming in from Punjab, Kota. There are people coming in from neighboring states as well. It's not more of an urban protest if you see. I mean, the percentage of those people is arguable. It must have been quite a low percentage compared to the urban people. But you also have to see what type of effect it had to get people coming in from Bihar, Punjab, etc. and other
Organically,
places.
everybody was just...
I think Shivom spoke about all of them having phones. I think in today's day and age, like back in the days, they used to say the necessity is roti, kapda, makan. But now I think it's roti, kapda, makan and phone. I think most of the people in this country now, even most rural villages, try and like somebody or the other will have a smartphone. So, through that smartphone, you can reach on even at the grassroots levels, you can address even them. And I think that's why this CJP protest, it got so much attention because of that. Because of the way it was so easily accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's what the whole thing was, that, it was there on your phone, literally. You were not there, you were seeing it. I'm going to be ending now, but I just want a quick, maybe from that side. You haven't spoken.
I am Nikhil Singh and I'm an undergraduate final year student. So the question was who you admire as a politician.
Yeah.
So I think I admire Mr. Prashant Kishore, as I belong to Bihar. And मैंने जो देखा है कि जिस हिसाब से उन्होंने मुद्दे उठाए हैं जो कि बहुत ज़रूरी थे, और इस तरह के मुद्दे खासकर बिहार में कोई उठाता नहीं है, जो कि उठाए गए शिक्षा को लेके और रोजगार को लेके। अधिकतर वहाँ पे कास्टिज्म और इस चीज़ पे काफ़ी बांटे जाते हैं, बट आई थिंक कि प्रशांत किशोर को हम आगे देखना चाहेंगे एज अ लीडर।
पर बिहार में तेजस्वी यादव भी है, और उसने कोशिश तो की थी कि हम जॉब्स की बात करें, रोजगार की बात करें।
उन्होंने कोशिश की थी, बट उनके जो पास्ट रहा है उनका और उनके फैमिली का, वो थोड़ा सा लगता है कि कास्टिज्म को लेके थोड़ा ज़्यादा है। सो प्रशांत किशोर को मैं जो पर्सनली आई फील कि प्रशांत किशोर को हम देखना चाहेंगे आगे, ताकि बिहार का थोड़ा सा और आगे बढ़े और शिक्षा मिले, रोजगार मिले, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट हटे।
मुद्दे अरविंद केजरीवाल ने उठाए थे, इफ यू नोटिस, बट ही जस्ट नो Did you not feel he did something with a difference?
But now currently जो अभी उठा रहे हैं प्रशांत किशोर जी हैं, और हम चाहेंगे कि आगे कुछ इस पे बात करें और जो रोजगार और अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट को लेके मतलब चीजें हैं उस पे वो एक्शन ले, शिक्षा को लेके।
तो वो आता था। Leaders of tomorrow, anybody else who wants to come in, who has not spoken yet?
I think I don't know about the leaders of tomorrow, but what the leaders should be aiming for is कि एक चीज बहुत साफ है, our generation in particular, which is going to be your future vote bank to all our respected leaders. We are the world's largest youth population. 65% of our country's youth is under the age of 35 in today's day and age. तो आप ये चीज समझ जाइए कि आप जो बोलते हैं, और कार्बन फुटप्रिंट का जमाना है, आप जो बोलते हैं वो रहेगा, आप जो करते हैं वो रहेगा. Divisive politics doesn't work anymore. Especially with our generation, you can try your level best of, selling your propaganda, of selling Hindu-Muslim hate. You can do your caste, you can do whatever you want. अगर आप चाहते हैं ताकत में रहना फ्यूचर में, अगर आप सच में आपको मतलब ताकत में रहना है, आपको थोड़ी सी भी मैंने सत्ता का मोह है अगर आपको, तो मैं बोलूंगा कि इस जनरेशन को अगर खुश रखना है, जो भविष्य है हमारा, क्योंकि मैंने अपने घर में भी यही बोला कि आपका ओपिनियन अब मैटर नहीं करता है, क्योंकि आपका समय गया, आपका समय कांग्रेस का था, वो सब मेरे घर में पर्टिकुलर पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को लेके अलाइंड है बहुत स्ट्रांगली. बट मैंने उनको बोला कि आपका समय गया, आपका समय जब था तब आपको बोलना चाहिए था, अब हमारा समय है. तो सिर्फ हम क्या बोलते हैं वो मैटर करता है, क्योंकि हमारे डिसीजंस फ्यूचर डिसाइड करेंगे इस देश
तो आप लोग चाहते हैं कि नए चेहरे आए, जैसे कि टीवी के विजय जो आए थे इन तमिलनाडु, प्रशांत किशोर, आप जो करंट पॉलिटिशियंस से आप
नहीं, वैसा जरूरी नहीं है. नए चेहरे इज नॉट नेसेसरी, बट आई थिंक
नए
पॉलिसीज और जो आप लोग इतने साल से बेच रहे हो ना, अब वो बिकता नहीं है, अब वो बंद कर दीजिए. धर्म को लेके, जाति को लेके अब ये सब चलने नहीं वाला है आजकल.
ये बात नहीं है, पुराने चेहरे अगर नई बात कहें तो अच्छा रहेगा. और अगर पुराने चेहरे दल बदलू ना बने, जैसे जेनजी ने अपनी जो सारे जो ख्वाब थे एक ही व्यक्ति विशेष से जुड़ा के रखे थे, जो राघव चड्ढा जी थे. राघव चड्ढा जी तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्लब में जो जाके उन्होंने कह दिया कि आम आदमी पार्टी से हमारा लगाव छूट गया है. हमें कंसिस्टेंसी की जरूरत है, हमें ईमानदार पॉलिटिशियंस की जरूरत है, और हमें लोगों की जरूरत है जो काम करके दिखाएं और बातें कम करें. और हमने काफी बातें कर ली है यहाँ पे, पर शायद आपका चैनल इतना बड़ा है, पॉलिटिशियंस भी देखते हैं, कान खोल के केवल सुन ही ले हमारी बात, अच्छा रहेगा.
आजकल तो आप लोगों की बात तो बहुत सुनते हैं, आपके जरिए मेरी बात भी सुनने
शायद तकलीफ ये है कि एक महीने उन्हें किसानों की बात भी सुनी थी, उसके बाद किसानों की बात कोई आजकल सुनता है.
तो बस मैं एक आखिरी बात बोलना चाहता हूँ कि this protest, I feel it was more of a return to Gandhian and Nehruvian politics. We saw that there were hunger strikes. I mean, there were peaceful marches, peaceful protests. That's the ideal satyagraha which this country was built on, which this country was basically based on. तो मैं एक चीज़ बोलना चाहता हूँ टू आवर पॉलिटिशियंस कि जो धर्म, जाति या कोई भी और चीज़ से आप भेदभाव बनाते हो, ये कृपया मत कीजिए, बिकॉज द यूथ विल नॉट फॉल फॉर इट गोइंग ऑन.
थैंक यू. आखिरी वर्ड.
Just one final point. I actually had a question to Shivom and to you, Ms. Sehgal. Shivom, you mentioned that you compared the recent protest to the farmers' protest. Now, as he said, the youth population is the largest in the world. Don't you think it's a bit unfair to compare the two protests, because the youth, which is the largest in the world, is hyper online? In my opinion, this protest only blew up and had a larger impact and scale because it was more theatrics than actual procedure within the protest. You see all of these videos which we're seeing, which I'm sure you're seeing on Instagram. There's no policy being spoken about. There's no real solutions being spoken about. And Rohan also said this. It's you're demanding resignation for the education minister, but you're not seeing the actual mechanisms that led to leak of the paper and that led to 20 lakh students taking it again. So do you think it's unfair to compare the two protests to each other, because they're completely different contexts, they're two completely different situations, and the people who are being affected have access to two completely different systems? And B, to you, Ms. Sehgal, do you think that this protest was more about theatrics, or do you think there's actual relevance to it? What do you think was the case?
Okay, so first of all, I think it's apt to compare the farmers' protest and this protest, because the two largest protests which have happened in the past decade or so have been the farmers' protests, and the government response has also been very different. It took how long? Maybe 6 months to 8 months for the farmers to even be recognized and the Prime Minister to ensure that the farm laws get repealed. Whereas it took maybe 3 or 4 months of active protesting, even 1 month of proper protesting on the scale the farmers' protest happened, for the government to take cognizance of the student student protest. तो जो आपने पहली बात कही कि farmer protest को compare नहीं करना चाहिए, वो मेरे हिसाब से गलत है, क्योंकि farmers protest भी एक मांग रही थी उन्हें, उनको अलग कानों से सुना और students को अलग कानों से सुना, वो बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है. Farmers को भी उतनी alacrity से सुनना चाहिए था जितनी alacrity students से सुना. Students को और भी जल्दी सुनना चाहिए था मेरे हिसाब से. दूसरी बात, आप मैकेनिज्म्स की बात कर रहे हो. मैकेनिज्म्स ठीक है, उनकी बात रखनी चाहिए, पर अगर आप किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बिग बॉस हो और आपके हाथों में है कि एनटीए बदली जाए, कोई अलग सिस्टम आए, और आपने नहीं किया, और आई थिंक धर्मेंद्र प्रधान हैज बीन द लॉन्गेस्ट सर्विंग एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर ऑफ द एनडीए एरा, 2014 onwards at least. He's been there for about 5 years.
No.
Yes, it was Smriti Irani, then there was this guy also, Ramesh Pokhriyal. Then I think it's Dharmendra Pradhan only in 2021 onwards he was okay, whatever.
We'll check that point.
I might be wrong on that.
Okay.
But regardless, if you're the boss of an organization, you're responsible for the reforms.
Of this
Who else is
government, he's the
responsible?
longest serving. You're right.
He's the longest serving. So who else is responsible for the reforms? I think that Dharmendra Pradhan, if he reflected and said on the first day itself, we will be bringing XYZ reforms, we will be sacking everybody in the NTA, all three ministers of states also came together and said the same thing, then it would have been okay. If you can't blame the protesters for saying that the protesters should do the government's job and say that the government shouldn't resign. The same thing I say to Rohan as well. You can't expect 17-year-olds to come up with solutions. Why have we elected Dharmendra Pradhan? Then why is he sitting in parliament? Why is anybody else sitting in parliament?
Fair enough. Yeah, let him quickly counter.
Another point, Shivom, when you're talking about being the big boss of an organization, the problems of an organization start at the root of the organization. It does not start at the head of the organization. What I think should have been done, instead of all of these theatrics that were happening at Jantar Mantar, 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds, I agree, they're not the top politicians in India and they don't have policy brains that can spin up policies like this, but they can get together if they're smart enough to create this huge protest that impacts millions of people. They're smart enough to come up with systems and mechanisms, as rightfully said. To
You don't want to protest.
Okay.
Can I
Quickly, Rohan and you, and then we're out of time.
I think the two things you said, theatrics, everything is theatrics in politics. Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha was also a theatrical symbol. अगर आप थिएट्रिक्स नहीं करोगे आप लोगों का अटेंशन नहीं ले पाओगे. आप जब बोलते हैं खड़े होकर कि आओ हम देश बदलेंगे, जो राम को लाए हम उनको लाएंगे, इसे थिएट्रिक्स ही कहते हैं. So this is all drama. You do this to gain attention. And number two, अगर थिंक टैंक ही सब करता है, संसद बंद कर देते हैं, हम ही सब बैठ के डिसाइड करते हैं कैसे देश चलेगा.
ठीक है.
Our job is to not do that.
No, I think the entire point of the protest was to make a dent. It was like a societal dent. It wasn't more so that a resignation will automatically solve corruption within a specific administration. It's a symbolic change. It's the way of the youth to say that we also have a voice, that we also have a say in what goes on in our country.
Should be heard.
And that's what I think was the.
Okay.
Right, and just to talk about what Farhan said, when you lose a battle, you blame the general, you don't blame the foot soldiers. So if there were problems at grassroots levels, they should be addressed by the top level leadership. They should be fixed, right? So the officers can't be on a temporary basis. They need to be permanent. And in that sense, I think he should have been held accountable. And you can't blame the grassroots level for issues that should have been fixed by the top level.
To take responsibility. Last two. We are out of. You already stirred honestness right at the end. So I'm sorry. Since you.
One more thing that Shivom pointed in his speech about everyone in the NTA should be in his rebuttal towards me and Farhan was that everyone in the NTA should be sacked. It's the NTA organization. इनकी गलती है तो NTA को ही हटा दो पूरा. Blah blah blah. So one point. 47 officials were removed. First of all, I don't know if you take that as a accountable action by the government, because I think it definitely was a measure of accountability. First of all, second of all, there was a paper leak in Punjab as well. Why is the youth not talking about that? And another point is that so many people are blaming the police forces in Kerala under the UPA government. Under the Congress government. There were 99 FIRs filed under the protesters. The police filed 99 FIRs against the protesters, and there was a water cannon burst on Rajiv Chandrasekhar's face, who's the BJP president for Kerala. So I think it's very fair to ask for accountability, but to ask for resignation of a person who barely had any knowledge of the paper leak, which was done at the grassroots level, is something that shouldn't be even asked for.
Who's responsible?
The NTA is responsible.
And who's responsible for the NTA?
The NTA is an organization. The NTA is an organization that comes under Ministry of Higher Education, that comes under Ministry of Education.
So then,
So do you think if any major problem occurs, do you think the minister should just resign? If a problem occurs at the grassroots level, you think the person at the top should just resign?
Points have been made by both, and they are valid points. But at least this is the young are asking questions. I mean, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Whichever side is being taken, questions are being asked. You cannot just make a statement and not expect it to be questioned. And I do agree with the you, since you'd also asked me a question, is that theatrics are necessary to get attention. After that, the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is also symbolic, but it does send a message that accountability starts from the top. And the next education minister will, know that this is, he is under scrutiny, and he will make sure that 47 officers under him who are chosen will perform. So, accountability has to start from somewhere in that sense, which is why I think they asked for a resignation, and which is why they went to the streets to protest, because they wanted to be heard. And as you yourself rightly pointed out, protest is not legal, but protest is also perhaps necessary, one would say.
Also, just adding to a small point that you said, that
they're not going to let me have the last word, clearly. I'm going to end with one of you.
Ruhan said that there was a thing happening in Punjab as well. No one spoke about it. But when the central government of this country, when the head of this country, the Pradhan of the Sangh and his the union, when they have to answer, my friend, I think even the local district level, your MP and MLAs will be scared ki, okay, we have to be a little careful, we have to be a little cautious, वरना बच्चे फिर सड़क पे आके बैठ जाएंगे. तो 100 बार सोचेंगे, भले वो आपका लोकल लीडर हो, वो आपका स्टेट लीडर हो, या वो राष्ट्रपति भवन में बैठे लोग हो, या वो आपके सेंट्रल विस्तार
violence should not be, the instances he cited, we have to also take his point into account. Not violence, not abuse, not slander. Protest, but protest within
peaceful
boundaries.
protest,
Right?
yes.
Within boundaries. But make yourself your voice heard. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting me have the last word. So on that note, it's good to have you all. I hope to have you all back again soon, because I think this is something we've all enjoyed. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.